Welcome to Lizzie's Workshop and the Dollar Store Art Challenge. So I'm just quickly showing you some clips of the art haul video that I did with regards to going shopping for the Dollar Store Art Challenge. I really failed on the budget portion of it, but I will only use, I'll tell you more about that later, but I did only use the required amount of items under the cost umbrella once I got started in making the project. So it shows you kind of quickly what kind of stuff I pulled from the dollar store, and the stuff I'm adding into these little clips is the stuff that I'm using for this project. So I'm starting off with the canvas board that I got from the dollar store, and I'm just putting a border around the edge with some of this Recollections washi tape. And the reason that I'm doing that is I wanted to have a visual border of where to stop doing 3D type of embellishments, because I've run into the problem with these boards before where I go to put them in a frame a little bit later and I can't because I've gone over the edges of the boards. So this is kind of a visual reminder for me to not go over the edge of the board with my 3D elements. And then I decided that I liked how that broke up the white space so much that I really just kind of went to town with the washi tape and filled it up a little bit just to break up that white space and create some visual texture in the background and add that extra layer to the whole shebang. It doesn't really end up mattering so much towards the end of this project because you'd be hard pressed to find any of that washi tape in the background once I frame it. The next thing I grab is my napkins, and I love napkins. I have a huge collection of dollar store napkins. I mostly do just buy them at the dollar store because that makes the most sense to me. And so I grabbed this one because I really loved the tulips on it, and pulled it apart and started assembling it. And I had a plan for this project. I had a very distinct plan of where I wanted to go with it and what my idea was and all of that stuff. And this is where, with these flowers, is where it sort of all went off the rails, it turned into something that I hadn't planned, and it kind of took on a life of its own. So I rip out more of these flowers, and I go and grab my matte medium. It is a golden matte medium. Actually, I think it's a golden matte medium. And I start gluing all these napkin components on here. And I really wanted to add a bunch of the flowers in and then create a scene with the puzzle that you saw in the quick clips preview kind of thing, but I didn't get to that point really. I ended up creating this fabulous background that I was sad to cover up, and yeah. So my biggest problem with getting derailed on this one was simply because my time was broken up so much. Like, it seems like it's pretty smooth when I'm doing this recording and putting it all together as a movie or as a video, but the problem with it is that I come and go, and I have to go do things like put the baby to bed, or make supper, or take the kids out to their evening activities, or whatever it ends up being. And so that's mostly where things kind of went off the rails, is because I got interrupted in my creative process. So this is just kind of a way of life for me, so it's not like I'm going to work on improving that, because that's just how things go. And so when I got to this point, I wanted to take these buildings out of here because they didn't really fit with what I was going for, and I ended up having to open up one more napkin in order to add the right disbursements of red and color in there. So it ended up that I don't know if I like this piece when it's done or not. I think it will grow on me. The puzzle was a really weird one where I grabbed the image because it had a little girl in it, and when I started building the puzzle, the more I stared at the box and the picture, the more I disliked it. And I don't know what it was that I disliked about it. It kind of just gave me this no feeling. Like, why is this man feeding this girl beans? You know, it's the picture called The American Way by Norman Rockwell of 1944. And so I didn't really like how the picture went. Like, even my daughter, she's like, this is a really weird picture. My daughter's 9 years old, and she was saying, why is that big girl being fed beans? And why does that man look like he's gonna do something to her? And I said, what do you think he's gonna do to her? You know, because she shouldn't have any concept of horrible things, you know? She's like, I just don't like it. So I guess the no feeling that I got, it's probably a new age thing because society has kind of changed a little bit since 1944. And so I feel like my no feeling is more generational. It's more situation and societal kind of thing now. Or maybe I'm just weird. Who knows? So the next step anyways was to pull out the tissue paper that I had in the package with the white paper that had the gold leaf on it, and I grabbed out this olive green tissue paper and filled in all the white space. And I didn't even realize that I had gone back to my hatred of white space until I was watching this video to do the editing. And I was like, oh, I left out a little bit of white space, so I better go back in and find it and fix it. And this was one of those things where I put it down and I went to do something else after to let this part dry. And I do get to the point where I'm sitting there going, oh, I got rid of all my white space. What was I thinking? You know? And so I do go back in and add white in there again once I get going on things. So this is the Dollar Store Art Challenge, and it came about by Shemi Dixon, and it was part of the Creative Arts Collaboration on Facebook. So that's a group of YouTube artists who have gotten together to kind of share ideas and support each other and that kind of thing. So out of that group, she created the Dollar Store Art Challenge, and the goal of the Dollar Store Art Challenge was to take $15 in your pocket for whatever country that you're living in and go and buy the products needed in order to create a project. So this is gesso I'm putting on here. I'm just spattering it, and then I'm going to use my brayer to spread it around. So everybody that decided to get involved would go over and spend their budget and buy these materials, and then you'd create whatever project that you want. Create a video, process video or whatever of it, and then we'll get together and we'll do kind of a blog hop type of thing, or a vlog YouTube hop kind of thing, where you can go down into the description box below this video and you can find a list of other people who participated in the challenge and see what they created with their stuff from their dollar store. I think that this stencil is an American craft stencil, but it doesn't have any, it's Mylar, and it doesn't have any distinguishing names on it, like it's not imprinted anywhere with that, so I'm not exactly sure where I got it from. The gray that I'm using here, it doesn't, I don't know that it even has a name, because it's just kind of all the same color. It has a number but not a name. And this is from the dollar store. It's called a Color Factory Chalk It Up chalkboard paint. So I used this bluish gray, and then I pulled in the black from that same set of paints. I'm going to use a dark green from that same set of paints, and then much later on, which I forgot to film, I'm going to use the red from that set of paints. I had these little glass bottles sitting on my workbench that were just kind of innocently there. Someone had, you know, their antique bottles, and I just kind of grabbed one and started to going away and making circles and such. This bottle that I'm using here, it ended up having dandelion seeds in it, so while I'm putting the paint on, I'm getting dandelion seeds stuck into the paint, so it creates more texture. So once I do that, I go in and fill in the black circles, and then I'm going to add in some more color with adding in the green. So when it comes to this dollar store art challenge, Shemi Dixon has decided she's going to do a giveaway with this, and so the winner of the giveaway is going to get $20 gift card to the Dollar Tree if you live in the US, or $20 US through PayPal if it is an international winner, and that will be a random draw in order to decide for the winner. It'll just be this random thing. So if you want to participate in the giveaway, you need to follow the link that's in the description box below, and then Shemi will make a video and announce the winner on her channel on January 30th. So don't forget to go and check out what other people created with the Dollar Store Challenge, because everybody's dollar stores are different, and some people didn't have dollar stores. They just had the ability to go to thrift stores or to discount stores and stuff like that. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see the diversity of what people come up with and what people find in their countries and in their stores and that kind of thing. So make sure you do go down and check out those links and see what other people are making. So this chalk paint, I kind of just went to town with it and added it wherever I could, and away we went. So I really like this stencil, and my page was starting to get quite dark, and I needed something that was a little bit more 3D. And so I brought this stencil back in, and I grabbed onto this little sampler that I have of Finalizing Art Basics light paste, and I was trying to use up some of that because I've had it for 2 years and I didn't want it to dry out. So I took that and spread that along there, and I really like how this looks right here. As far as art goes, I should have just left it right here, and I would have been perfectly content with putting that on my wall. I have some kind of issue with not being able to see backgrounds as art. I often look at something like this and go, well, it doesn't have a focus, so it's not art. So I really do have to change my perspective of that and maybe just stop while I'm ahead, because I really am sad to not have just kept what I considered the background at the time. I'm sad to have not just kept that as my piece of art. What I am doing here is I'm adding in all of these bits and pieces from the puzzle, the Norman Rockwell puzzle, and the intent was sort of going back to my original plan of creating like a pile of rubble, because it was sort of a military scene, and I don't end up putting the soldier in the scene at the end, and so these piles of rubble just kind of end up adding visual texture to the whole, and physical texture, I suppose, to the whole composition. The reason that I'm going to say here, I did this on purpose and just had the girl, because that was what when I was in the store, that was the purpose of buying the puzzle, was for the girl. And so maybe this was, intentional, but when I was putting the puzzle together, I was getting so frustrated because everything seemed to be the same color with all the pieces of the puzzle, and I'm not a very patient person, so having a 500-piece puzzle where every piece sort of, looks the same shape and is the same color and they're the same hues and stuff like that, it was driving me insane. It took me 5 days of playing with the puzzle before I just kind of gave in and was like, I'm just going to do the girl, just the girl. So the quote that I originally had for both the girl and the soldier, that quote no longer applied because I only had the girl as the focal point. So I had to go back through my Pinterest board of quotes to use in mixed media, and I had to sort through what kind of quote I could use for this project. I couldn't find anything because I decided the girl, instead of trying to be fed food, I decided she was singing a song, and so I had to go through and find quotes about singing, and everything became quite biblical quite quickly, and I don't typically share things of faith on my art or on my walls, and so I had to backtrack a little bit and keep digging to find the right kind of quote for this piece. But this was a mistake too. I don't know that I should have put the jute in. Like I already have lots of visual texture. I already have lots of depth to this. I already have lots of physical depth to it and texture and all that stuff. There was no reason to actually add the jute in. It made me really cap up my budget. Like I ended up spending the full $15 to create this project where I didn't really need to. The jute, it doesn't, I don't think it really adds to the overall finished product of this page. I could probably go through and trim it out and it would be, you know, maybe a better composition, but the jute is there, and I always love watching videos of people who put jute and all that kind of stuff into their project, and it looks all like wispy and big round circles and curls, and it always just looks so perfect. And every time I touch the stuff, it just kind of does whatever the circle is that it came off of the roll on. I don't know if I need to untwist it or what I need to do. So if you have any ideas on how I can make jute be nicer to me, then feel free to leave me comments about that. But so here's the girl from the puzzle. You can see the end of the hand with the spoon on it right by her mouth, but I do end up covering that up with paint. And so to me, she's just this little girl who is sitting there staring out into La La Land, all relaxed and just kind of singing a song, or you know, maybe she's forcing herself to sing a song, maybe she's got to have the perfect posture or whatever, but I don't know what her story is, but I made it look like or felt that she was singing rather than being fed, so I just ran with it. What I'm doing here is I am solidifying the pieces of the puzzle. In a dollar store puzzle, the pieces do not stick together. You really do have to glue the pieces of the puzzle together if you want it to stay together for any amount of time. And what I ended up using here was the golden polymer medium gloss, and that kind of just makes it kind of stick together and be all shiny and stuff like that. So these piles of rubber, I didn't like the red. It didn't match the red. It looks like it matches the red in the background, but it really doesn't. It's really a dark red, and it's got strips of gold on the puzzle pieces. And then the buttons, they don't fit in with any of the really real color scheme I've got going on. And so I go back to the original idea I had, and that was to cover the rubble up with gesso and then highlight it with a color of paint over top. But this is so chunky and it's so bright and so overwhelming and in your face that I really regretted doing it afterwards. And this is where I start thinking, you know, I should have just left it as an abstract, you know, where I thought, oh, this is just the background. I should have just left that abstract piece just the way it was, because I really, really enjoyed it at that point. And I don't know that I might learn to love this piece, but I don't know that I love it at this time once it's finished. And then I thought, oh, well, you can't even see the rope, the jute, so I'm going to try and put some paint on it, but I didn't want to get white paint or light white gesso on the background, so it really didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And then the girl got stuck to the page, so I had to scrape her off, and then I sealed her one more time with the same stuff again, just to make sure, you know, everything stuck together as a whole image. I guess it kind of sounds like I didn't enjoy this process, but this was my 15 minutes a day that I've been promising myself for 2017. So I did enjoy the creative time that I spent on it. Not everything really was a problem. I just didn't, because it derailed so quickly in the beginning of the project, I feel like I kind of had a disconnect to it and had to just kind of keep persevering to get through that teenage phase of the project in order to come through and see what I ended up with at the end. So then I wanted a place to write the quote that I had chosen, and there really wasn't. I couldn't decide, okay, well, am I going to use red? Am I going to use black? Am I going to use white? And then I thought, you know what, I just need to create a background for the words so that it's a semi-solid color so that I can actually make this work properly. So I took just a little piece of note paper and I glued a layer of the green tissue paper that I'd used previously in the background. I glued a layer of that down with the matte medium, and let it dry really, really well. So I would say that it dried over 2 days. I didn't have to dry over 2 days. That's just the way things worked out with, you know, family needs came first. And so it worked out pretty good that it got to dry nice and solidly, and I didn't have to worry about my pens getting ruined by writing on it. So once that dries, I take my artist Pitt pen and I just write the quote. And once I've got the quote on there, I rip it all out and do all that stuff. Before I adhered it to the canvas, I did go over it again with another marker, with a Staedtler permanent marker, Lumo color permanent marker, just to thicken up the letters in some places and make it stand out a little bit more. And then I took the red chalkboard paint and filled in the heart as well. And the quote ends up saying, "Some days there won't be a song in your heart, sing anyway." And that's really true. You know, some days you don't feel like doing things, and you got to get your bum out of bed and do them anyway. So that's where that was coming from. So I ripped it all out, and I had all these scraps sitting on my table, and I needed to do something with those scraps because I can't throw anything out apparently. And so I ended up adding them to the background of the girl image. So I liked it just like that. I should have probably just left it just like that. That's how the jute looked pretty good, but I didn't. I went and added all these green bits to this, just using some matte medium. And so I added 2 layers. I added this one layer that had the white as in the background of the bits and pieces of the writing paper. And then I go through and add in a bunch of little bits and pieces of the tissue paper as well, just to give that extra layer in there. So this piece, I need to get a frame for it, and that's kind of a more shadow box kind of frame, because I've got so many heavy layers when it comes down to the buttons and the puzzle pieces and the jute and all that stuff. It creates this very, very thick you know, piece, and so I really need to go through and get more of a shadow box kind of frame for this piece in order to put it up in my house, if I do choose to put it up in my house. I don't know, I don't know that I love it overly much, so maybe I'll try to give it away or sell it or something like that. Maybe somebody will come in my house and see it on my little gallery wall and say, "Hey, I like that," and then I'll know that they are wanting to take it home with them. So once I get this on here, I decide that it should be ready to go, and enough is enough. And so I decide, okay, I'm going to put her on. So I go back over and I grab my golden heavy gel, and the heavy gel is what I use to put the buttons and the puzzle pieces on. It becomes like a really quick glue, and then it dries. It dries quick initially, and then it dries really nice and hard and solid later on. So I went back to the gray, and I thought, you know what, that white is too blaringly white. I'm going to go through and put some gray on top, and I like how that came out, but I should have focused too on the borders of the white, because there's still these big chunky white spots on there that I don't necessarily love. And then I went around the edge here. I wanted to cover up that spoon being held to her mouth, and so this gray chalkboard is really a matte finish, and it's really opaque, and so I decided, you know, this is perfect. I'll put this around the edge there, and it'll kind of, you know, blend her into the background a little bit, bring her closer to the background a little bit, and block out that spoon that's being held to her mouth. So as I'm finishing up here, I'd just like to remind you to feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and also to check out all the other videos that are in my description box, and to participate in the giveaway if that's an interest to you. The link for that is also in the description box below this video, and I invite you to join me again at Lizzie's workshop for more mixed media projects. My goal this year is to get into my craft room more frequently, and so I am trying really hard to make sure that I have more videos out for everybody to see what I'm creating. And I'm also posting on Instagram quite regularly, and I do a lot of saving of Pinterest images as well. So if you want to check out my boards, or if you want to check out my Instagram, it is also under Lizzie's workshop. Here are the still pictures and the close-ups. You can see all the different layers in there and all the different textures in there and how it all came together at the end. The frame that I ended up putting it in is from Michaels, and I really like how it kind of just matched with the paint of the grayish blue background. Thanks for watching at Lizzie's workshop.